learned the latest news currently involving Raheem Sterling as Thomas Tuchel officially makes contact with the player. We have big updates on De Ligt as we have presented an incredible player exchange involving Timo Werner plus money for De Ligt's services, plus learn the latest updates on Ousmane Dembele and Hakim Ziyech as well. Ton of things to break down and discuss. As I'm really stressing, we are now moving away from monitoring to contacting and approaching players, so things will start to heat up a lot more in July. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Smash that like button, help me go over 3k likes for today's video, and without wasting any more time, now let's start things off and let's discuss the latest news currently surrounding Hakim Ziyech. We know that his agent and his reps have made approaches to AC Milan to try and force contacts over a possible move. We know that AC Milan showed a desire to sign Ziyech back in January on loan, so it only makes sense that Ziyech is open now to a move away. It has been reported that the player is not currently happy at the club right now, and he doesn't have the best relationship with Thomas Tuchel, with things being quite cold between both of them. Currently, it does seem like Ziyech will be signing for AC Milan on loan, and when it comes to the terms of the loan offer, it seems like that will be 5 million loan fee plus 2 million in bonuses, as well as an option to buy at the end of the deal for 20 million. So in total, you're receiving around 27 million for a player that Thomas Tuchel just doesn't necessarily have a role for. And you know, me personally, you guys know it, I'm a massive fan of Hakim Ziyech. I've spoken about him before we even signed him, so I was absolutely gassed when we secured his services. But for me, I feel like it's a case of misfortune that constantly keeps falling on the player. I mean, for example, when Lampard signed him, you know, originally his idea was to team up on the right hand side alongside Reece James, and then when the season's about to start, he picks up an injury against Brighton in a pre-season game. Of course, that naturally affected what Lampard's preparations and plans were going to be during the start of that season. He came back, he cooked for a few games, we saw what the player did against Brighton and other teams. However, he picks up another injury, and a new manager comes in Thomas Tuchel, where Tuchel himself has said in interviews that he just doesn't have a role for Ziyech because he doesn't use right wingers in the system. The few times that we have seen Ziyech play right wing under Tuchel, we have seen great performances. Look at his games versus City, his games versus Spurs, plus other games as well. Just because players leave doesn't mean they're flops. And for me, I would never say that Ziyech was a flop here. Just ultimately in the end, he was a good player that just doesn't necessarily fit. And I think at AC Milan that uses like a 4-3-3 system that has Leao on the left hand side and Ziyech on the right, I think they could be incredibly dangerous. But anyway, I'm moving on to the next story. So right now, let's talk the latest updates surrounding Raheem Sterling. This afternoon, Matt Law from The Independent released an article and he confirmed that Thomas Tuchel has officially already made contact with the player, discussing his plans for the player for next season. Sterling is that main number one target, we do know this. We know that once Lukaku's future was determined, we were going to prioritise Sterling as the next immediate attacking signing to make at this point in time. Now, he does have interest from across clubs in Europe, however, he prefers to remain in the Premier League and he prefers to sign for us instead. What Sterling needs right now is regular game time guarantees. Of course, he needs assurances that we plan to challenge for silverware consistently. And in previous reports and videos I've done, we know that this next contract that Sterling is looking for is that prime contract to reflect his prime years. So already, he's earning like around 300,000 a week in Man City. You'd imagine that if we're signing the player, he will sign for more money than 300k a week, so he is going to be very, very expensive. And Man City are still adamant that they want between 50 to 60 million for the player. However, there's not much competition for him in that sense, and it's not like they can necessarily guarantee him the game time and minutes he wants here. So it does seem like potentially they could reduce their valuation as time goes on, with many outlets hinting at a 45 million bids being enough to sign the player. It's going to be very interesting to see, but I'm going to share some of my thoughts and opinions behind how I think Tuchel could use the player. Now, Sterling is, you know, a goal-scoring winger. I feel like he does his best work at Man City when he's receiving the balls out wide, and when you're receiving wide, you can literally like see the entire pitch in front of you. This then allows him to then, you know, pick and choose the pockets and holes to, you know, make runs into, and of course that ability to time those runs inside the books. But translating that to our wing-back system under Thomas Tuchel, you'd imagine that maybe Sterling is on that right-hand side or left-hand side, where he has shown that he can score a regular amount of goals down either side of the field, which is another big compliment towards the player. But what I feel Sterling would need, if you plan to have him receiving in the half spaces in those channels, you need to give him a wing back that has pace. Chilwell can do this, but we know that once anything happens to our wing backs, still the difference between the chances Man City create and the ones we create is that they create much more efficient and a higher volume of, great goal scoring chances. Our chance creation might look good on paper, but in terms of like our XG, we definitely underperform. And I think a lot of that comes down to very basic chance creation, with most of the chances on stats coming from like crosses out wide. My only fear is that if we don't look to elevate how we attack, could we potentially bottleneck future attacking players? I'm not too sure right now. Now we have some very interesting developments surrounding the future of Matthijs de Ligt, and it seems like Mr. Torboli is open to possible player exchanges in hopes of getting business and deals done. I guess maybe this is normal negotiations when it comes to American sports, and considering some of the players we have who have a lot of interest but are on higher wages, I've never really understood why we don't see enough of these types of deals. And I do think the Serie A clubs are more inclined to deals like this. And focus on reports now, Timo Werner plus 25 to 30 million euros has been offered now for Matthijs de Ligt. Now, Juventus have immediately rejected things. However, they are open to the idea of Timo Werner, and Werner, based on what reports are saying, is open to the idea of signing for Juventus. And essentially, Werner would be that replacement for Morata. And what I find interesting too is that Morata can also play up front in the front too, play up front by himself, and was also playing out wide too. So I think Werner could be a great fit for Juventus. And considering they have Vlahovic right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a diamond return back for them, Vlahovic being that focal point, and Timo Werner then being able to attack the spaces in behind. This is what he was doing when he was at RB Leipzig, and the few times we've seen Werner play up front with Lukaku, it's been no surprise to me that Werner is able to score goals because that focal point is of course creating space for him to run in behind. So on paper, this would be a smart move for Juventus. However, it is going to require Timo Werner taking a wage reduction, which reports aren't necessarily confirming at this point in time. The guy's on 280k a week. He's earning like 10 to 11 million euros a year. It's crazy money. And I find it kind of ironic that his time here hasn't necessarily worked out and he's been immediately used as a player exchange to sign a defender instead. Regardless though, reports continue on and they do say that we will make another new offer of Timo Werner plus 40 to 45 million euros for Matthijs de Ligt. Now, other reports are also mentioning the fact that Jorginho is another possible name that could entertain part of these discussions and these talks. However, one of the potential realities behind a deal like this is that they will not necessarily act as part of the deal to actually reduce the transfer fee. However, they will literally just be separate deals as part of the current negotiations, which tends to be the most popular thing done in these like player exchange moves. So, it is very interesting to see. Of course, I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions. You guys, yesterday I was very in-depth behind my thoughts on De Ligt, how I think he could fit under Thomas Tuchel, and of course the latest story surrounding him too. So if you want to get my full tactical debriefing on the player, that video is going to be in the card above, and I'd recommend you watch that because, with videos like this, I don't like repeating the same points all the time because personally I don't want to bore none of you guys. But one thing I will say though is that De Ligt is on incredible money, like literally nearly like 10 million euros a year. If he signs for us, I can't imagine him taking any reduction on that, on top of a big signing on fee that he most naturally will command too. It feels like a lot of money in my opinion to dedicate to signing a defender. And I'm going to mention this literally to play devil's advocate and for argument's sake right now, so literally just hear me out on this, you guys. But when you consider that you could potentially maybe get a Koundé and Bremer for around the same fee that will cost you to sign De Ligt, does that not make maybe more sense from like a team perspective in terms of the versatility that Bremer and Koundé can give you? It does kind of feel like De Ligt is one of those players that kind of needs like a structure and protection in front of him. Other players are available for a fraction of that price. I could even say for argument's sake someone like Marc Guy, who's shown he's one of the best young defenders in the league. And currently I'm just not as confident, but I think one of the main reasons behind why I'm not feeling confident is that I get quite nervous when it comes to us spending big money to sign players, based on the fact that so many of these moves kind of end up flopping in the end. So I need real guarantees and assurances that if we're committing big money like this, something will happen. And I guess just to play devil's advocate and to be very cynical as well too, you know, we could have maybe enticed Rudiger to commit to a new deal way before this year, way before last season. And if you had offered him like greater wages earlier before interest from Madrid and other clubs came, then you're keeping a better player for a fraction of the fee that it's going to cost you to sign De Ligt, who's probably going to sign the same type of contract that Rudiger currently has at Real Madrid. So I'm not too sure, you guys. For me, the signing that I would get would be Bremer and Koundé. That's only my thoughts and opinions. Share yours on De Ligt. And right now, I want to end things by talking about the latest news on Ousmane Dembele. This is a bit of like a minor report that does have interesting details. And I kind of feel like normally I would never even like talk about something like this, but I guess for the sake of a player that all us fans are very interested in, I feel like I have to update all you guys on the updates surrounding the player and what's happening at this point in time. Anyway, I'm going to use Mundo Deportivo as the source in today's video. They've been releasing a lot of insight behind what's happening with the contract demands. But to focus on their report, Thomas Tuchel is literally adamant that he wants Dembele to be signed here on a free. Now, the report states that he has been offered 8 million after tax net per year, and they're kind of pressing to sign the player. Basically, we don't want to give him to crazy demands that are being reported in the press, but I'm going to actually touch upon that literally later on. The news does state that we would probably look to make him our highest paid player, or at least give him parity alongside like the best paid players at the club. But here's where I want to talk about these contract demands being like flowered around Dembele. Now, we can't forget that Barcelona's contract offer is for a wage reduction because they can't afford to keep most of their best players. When Messi left Barcelona, even when the player committed to a drastic wage reduction to remain at Barcelona, they still couldn't afford to keep the player. Barcelona have been offering new contracts on reduced fees based on investigation into reports. I found out that Dembele and his team were happy to take a wage reduction as long as they were able to command a good signing on fee, which is something Barcelona can't commit to. Currently, Ousmane Dembele is earning around 350k per week at Barcelona, so it's not like he's on poor money and is asking for a ton more. So this is where the context of these reports and stories do get a bit different now. But to add on top of this though, we have to talk about the tactics when it comes to committing to sign the player. Now, within the next week, we're going to get even more information because his contract officially expires at the end of this month, which is like 5 more days, and reports are kind of hinting at the fact that the club don't want to commit to announcing any contract offers for the player currently because they don't want to give Barcelona any negotiation advantages. We know that Barcelona have left an offer on the table for a while now, and Dembele and his team just haven't accepted things. Their strategy at this point in time is to collect as many offers as possible to use as leverage. I think that's what they do. I mean, that's exactly what Rudiger did too as well. We offered him a crazy deal, and Madrid were able to offer more than that, and that's why he accepted them. So we don't want to make that same mistake for Ousmane Dembele. So it does seem like the tactic right now is to wait for the player's contract to officially expire in the next few days. We want to reduce that possibility of Barcelona making any contract counter offers once they learn what our offer is towards the player. So this does make a lot of sense, and it does explain why we're not getting too much news currently involving offers being made towards the player. Barca are currently hoping that Dembele and his team, their plan flops when it comes to, collecting all the best offers, because clubs like Bayern aren't presenting offers. Man United aren't presenting offers as well too. There's not a very big market for the player currently, and they're kind of hoping that Dembele's preferred desire to remain at Barcelona will in the end force the player to accept the contract that Barca have laid out on the table. But we can make a better offer, and the fact that the player will be available on a free, I think something could definitely be done here, and we're going to learn more insight and context as he literally has his contract expiring in the next few days. Of course, some interesting updates behind what the Barcelona board are currently thinking. There seems to be a bit of conflict now at the higher levels, with some people actually talking about the fact of rescinding the contract offer made towards Dembele to just put out a strong image about what's happening so they don't present any ideas that the boards are pushovers at Barcelona. However, many other board members are totally against this, and they are literally playing a waiting game, hoping that Dembele in the end gives in and accepts their demands. So, it's getting very political at this point in time, getting very tactical. But you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. I'm the EFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys there with some more videos. Cool.